Hello and welcome to another tutorial from HU Excel. Today I'm going to go over date and time in Microsoft Excel. So if you've worked with Excel very long, you know that it is relatively easy to subtract two dates from each other. So let's say July 30th, 2021, you can just do equals this minus this, and you'll get days. I did it backwards, so I got negative days, but you get the idea. Go this way, then I get days, okay? But then it can get a little more complicated. For example, if you want to, I just did this as a quick example, do something like this, where I've got a bunch of times, and I'm gonna round it to the nearest interval. So I wrote a formula that will round it, and depending on what you put here, it'll round to that interval. So this is going to round to the nearest 5-minute interval, or I can change it to the nearest 15-minute interval, nearest 30-minute interval, or whatever. And if you see here, I've got this somewhat complicated formula, and if you understand what Excel is doing, it becomes easier to write these sorts of formulas and do these sorts of calculations. So that's kind of what I want to go over, is just give you a primer on what Excel is doing under the hood with its date and times. So what I did here, I just punched in some numbers, and then I have a reference. So this reference is A3. So the value in this cell, B3, is just 0. Okay? And then I formatted these as a date and a time. I can show that real quickly if I go... Nope, here it is. Clear, and I'm just going to clear the formats. So now you can see the value is the same as what's in A3 and B3, etc. So now I'm going to go in here, I'm going to format these again. I'm just going to format this as a date. Let's use this one. Okay, so 0 is January 0, 1900, which is a theoretical, didn't exist date. Number 1 is January 1st, 1900. So date in Excel is just the number of days that have happened since January 0, 1900. This is today's date, and I just did that. I did int now. That's today's date. Okay, so that's why subtracting numbers in Excel, or dates in Excel, is very straightforward. You can just subtract those two numbers, 180 days. If I want to go 180 days in the future, I can do this plus 180. And then if I copy this down, 180 days in the future is July 9th, 2022. Okay. The way Excel deals with time is a little different. Time is the fractional portion or the decimal portion of the day that has happened. So what I did here was I've got 0 through 23. So at 1 a.m., and I just did D3, or 1, divided by 24, so 0.041667. So 0.04 fraction of the day has passed, and then here again I just did a reference, so that's 1 a.m. Okay, so the way Excel deals with time is the fraction of the day that has passed. So at 6 a.m., a fourth of the day is over. Okay. At 9 a.m., that's 3/8 of the day is over. 12 noon, half the day is over, etc. So that's how Excel deals with time. Okay. So to get date and time, if I were to do, that's today's date plus 0.25. And if I were to do a reference, and I'm going to change the format of this so we can see the date and the time. Let's go here, and let's do this one. Okay, so that's today's date at 6 a.m. And if I wanted to do 0.5, equals this plus 0.5. 0.5, there we go. Clear the formatting. So that's today's date at 12 p.m. So if I wanted to do today's date at 7 p.m., I could do 1900 hours divided by 24. So just today's date plus the military or 24-hour format of the hour. So 1900 hours divided by 24. And again, if I copy this down, so that is today's date at 7 p.m. Okay. Now, if you want to do durations, so I've got 12 p.m. and I want to know what's 1 hour and 25 minutes after 12 p.m. The way I would do that, let me actually back up a little bit here. Let's show you minutes. So let's do 12 p.m. and I just want to add 5 minutes to that. Okay. Or if I want to do 12 p.m. and I want to add 5 seconds to that. There's a couple of values that make doing time calculations really easy. We know how many hours are in a day, right? We know there are 24 hours in a day. If you take that times 60, times 60, we know there's 1,440 minutes in a day. You take that times 60, there's 86,400 seconds in a day. These two numbers, if you're writing a lot of Excel formulas, it's good to memorize those, and you'll just kind of naturally memorize those over time if you do it a lot. So if I want to add 5 minutes to 12 p.m., you would do that by 5 divided by the number of minutes in a day. So that's your decimal portion that 5 minutes represents in a day. So I'm just going to add this to 12 p.m. and there you go, 5 minutes after 12 p.m. If I wanted to do seconds, same idea, 5 divided by 86,400, that's the fraction of a day represented by a number, or by 5 seconds. And it's doing it in scientific notation. Anyway, so now I can do equals 12 p.m. plus that. And I'm not displaying seconds, so we can't see it, but if I display seconds, now you will see that is 12 p.m. and 5 seconds. I'm going to go ahead and add seconds to this as well, and to this one. Okay. Now, of course, you could do that all in one step. So, for example, let's say 12 p.m. and I want to add 5 minutes. You can do 5 divided by 1440 plus that. There's 12:05 p.m. Okay. Similarly, you could do equals 5 divided by 86,400 plus that. And there's 12 p.m. and 5 seconds. Okay, so if you understand that time is portion of a day, then that makes doing these time calculations easier. So, for example, 12 p.m., I want to add 1 hour, 25 minutes. The way you can do that is you take I2, which is 1, divided by 24, add that to J2 divided by 1440, and you get an hour and 25 minutes is that much fraction of a day, 0.059027778. Okay, now if I just add this plus this, then 1 hour and 25 minutes after 12 p.m. is 1:25 p.m. Okay. You can do a little bit different method. This will get you to the same place. I did I3 and then I did J3 divided by 60 to get a decimal hour, and then I divided that by 24. You get the same fractional day, and then I added it again. Okay, so you can do things like, let's say it's 108 and 31 seconds, and I want to add, I don't know, 15 minutes and 8 seconds. Okay, so I can do equals 15 divided by 1440 plus 8 seconds divided by 86,400. That's your fractional portion of a day represented by 15 minutes and 8 seconds. Okay, so 15 minutes and 8 seconds after 108 and 31 seconds is 123 and 39 seconds. Okay, now let me explain a little bit what I did here. I'm going to break this down a little bit. So what I did was, first I converted this into minutes, decimal minutes instead of a times. So I'm going to take this times 1440. Okay, so what that's saying is 803 is the same as saying 483 minutes since midnight. That's the number of decimal minutes. Okay, now I'm going to equals this divided by whatever is here. So divide by my interval. I'm going to round that off to 0. Doing a different cell. Equals round this comma 0. So 16 intervals of 30 minutes have happened since midnight. And I'm going to take this times this, F4. We come up with 480. So that's the number of minutes when you round. That's the number of minutes that have happened since midnight. And now we can convert minutes back into time by dividing by 1440 again. And now if we format this as a time, should come out, if I did it right, to 8 a.m. Okay, so what I've done is I've combined this all into one formula. So here I'm taking 02, the 803 times 1440. I'm dividing it by P1, rounding it to 0. And then I'm taking it times P1 again, and then taking the result of all of that divided by 1440 to format it back into a time. Okay, and then I've just drug that down. So that allows me now, I can do any wonky interval I want to do. So if I want to round to the nearest 13-minute interval, I can do that. It gets a little weird, but 15-minute interval is pretty natural, 30-minute interval, 5-minute interval, just by changing that value. So I hope that wasn't too much too fast. I was just trying to give you kind of a primer on what Excel is doing under the hood. Date is always integer, number of days since January 0, 1900. Time is always the fractional amount of a day that has passed since midnight. Hope that's helpful. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me at paul@huxl for questions, or to book extended training, or for me to work on a project for you, developing an Excel spreadsheet for you, or a Microsoft Access database. Thank you.